Hello, this is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. This is probably one of the most important videos I've made on the Idaho 4 murder case with suspect Bryan Kohberger, who I believe 100% is the killer in the case. This video really starts off at about 3:26 in the morning, but right now it's passing Conestoga Drive on Palouse River Drive, and I just have him entering in this way. There's other ways he may have entered into the area in the white Elantra, missing its front license plate. But it's first spotted, apparently, according to the probable cause. They might have even earlier sightings now after doing more canvassing of the area, but it's first spotted in the area at 3:26 at Indian Hills Drive, the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. So right now it's heading towards Highway 95, and once it gets to Highway 95, it actually goes through the intersection, and that's where we pick it up, where it's likely that he's still on Palouse River Drive at some point. It's also possible off of 95 he could have turned either right or left on Southview Avenue, because he eventually ends up on Southview Avenue. But I have him on Palouse River Drive because he seemed to be familiar with it. He comes out on Palouse River Drive after the murders by driving on Walenta Drive and then on Conestoga and then down to Palouse River Drive. So right now we're going through the intersection on Highway 95 and Palouse River Drive, and we're still on Palouse River Drive. Now it's possible he could have taken this first left coming up, and that would be Myrtle Street. Now right there. Okay, now Myrtle Street also takes you to Southview. But, you know, I have him taking Nursery Street, which is this next left here. And in this situation we have a large truck driving by, so I have to get behind that. So it's a little bit slower right here than it would have been, maybe 3 or 4 seconds longer. So the truck pulls out of the way, and now I'm driving normal speed. So it really didn't waste too much of my time. And if you look at the clock right now, it's 3:25 and 38 seconds. Now I could have started the clock where it was earlier when I got here, so that we're exactly at 3:26 when we pass 700 Indian Hills Drive. But I didn't do that. But you'll see how consistent it is anyways. So right now it's 3:26. The next street we'll be turning on is going to be, I think we're on Southview Avenue right now. We went on Nursery Street, Southview, and then we're going to take a left on a really short street called Alice Street. And that's right here. And at the top of Alice Street, right up there, you see the stop sign. I switched to daylight. You turn left on Indian Hills Drive. And then I think I switched back over to nighttime. Just there on the left there, that next house on the left with those lights, those really bright lights, there's a surveillance camera on the side of the house there. And look what time it is, 3:26 and 49 seconds. Probable cause said 3:26. The vehicle drove by there. Now, they never tell us how many seconds or anything like that. So there's really no way to know. It could be just that they used the hour, minutes, and that was it. They didn't add the seconds in there. I'm sure they know the exact time, though, on those cameras. So currently the vehicle is still on Indian Hills Drive, driving around, and it does this big sort of loop around. Right here there's a stop. This is at Indian Hills Drive and Northwood Drive, it looks like. And now it's going to switch over into becoming Rose Street right now. And as it's driving this direction, it then ends up on Steiner Avenue, which we've all heard because it's mentioned in the probable cause document. So it turns left here on Steiner, and it's 3:28. And you got to keep in mind, I'm driving probably 7 or 8 in the evening, where Kohberger is driving the white Elantra at probably, well, I mean, obviously we know what time it is. It's 3:28, so there isn't anybody around. That's what I was about to say, was there probably isn't anybody on the streets. So look at this, 3:28 and 25 seconds. Okay, and he wouldn't have had to wait very long here because there wouldn't be any traffic at all. So that killed a little bit of time. So it would have been like 3:28 and 35 seconds or so when he passed the A&W here. Now look, I'm just driving a regular pace here. I mean, I know that I drove 36 and a 25. All the trolls just love it. Oh, Gray, he's driving so fast over there. Put a 1 in the comments section if you've driven 36 in a 25 in your life. Okay. So we passed the A&W. That had a surveillance camera on it. I've shown that in other videos. And right now we're on Taylor Avenue. And look what time it is. It enters the area the first time at 3:29. And that there's a camera on Linda Lane that films Taylor Avenue that shows a vehicle coming into the area at 3:29. It comes in, if you read the probable cause document, it talks about how it makes an initial 3 passes leaving on Walenta Drive. That means each of the passes, when it leaves this area here, it leaves on Walenta Drive. Now look at my car's driving up here, totally rational speed, stops for a second here. You know, it could have been a little bit slower, don't really know. But either way, there's seconds that you can work with here. It doesn't really matter. I'm driving at a totally normal speed. And look what time it is, 3:30 and 49 seconds. You come around this corner here. And now it's 3:30 and 55 seconds. And look at that, matches right up with the surveillance footage. Working its way around right now. And this will come out by the 1122 King Road address. Now on this pass here, I have it wait for approximately 3 minutes. He's waiting, watching, hoping that they'll turn the lights off, and he's just sitting in his car for those 3 minutes. You know, one thing I'm struggling with is just the sheer number of conspiracy people that are following this case. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Somehow I am this person putting out misinformation to everybody intentionally, when literally what I'm doing is showing you that the probable cause document makes sense. The timing of everything works. And like I've said from this whole time, I think that he sat here for 3 minutes. He would turn the lights off, wait, and then he would drive away. Now, on the time between pass number 2 and 3, it's 17 minutes. And like I've said, in that pass, he didn't stop. And if you drive directly from this parking spot to the mobile gas station, you would get there at exactly 3:45, and there appears to be a photograph of a vehicle looking similar to a white Elantra. But you have a lot of people out there saying, no, it's not Gray. There's no way. It's a Prius. It's this, it's that, it's this and that, it's this and that. I don't know if it's a white Elantra for certain. It does have similar window shapes. The headlights are in the same place. The back of the car looks the same. It looks similar to me. However, it doesn't really matter to me if it is or isn't. Okay? It means that isn't it, and he drove somewhere else, and then he came back 17 minutes later. It's not a huge issue, but people, if you get one thing that they don't agree with, and they attack you, but they never care or attack their conspiracy brethren who put out absolute nonsensical garbage on a daily basis. They put out nonsensical information on a daily basis and never challenge the YouTubers that they watch and believe in. But man, if you put out something that makes sense, you must be working for the FBI. Well, it's crazy. I mean, I'll take that as a compliment that you think that my information is that clear, and it's so damning, because it is, right? Now, my information is exactly what law enforcement likely has, right? Because it's the probable cause document. They probably have a ton of more information since the murders and the arrest. So if you look right here, the clock's just ticking away, and it looks like here, not too long, it's going to start moving again. So he would sit there for maybe 3 minutes, waiting, watching, seeing what's going on, and then take off. Now the loop that I have him go on Willanta Drive is, kind of goes around in it takes maybe 4 minutes to do it. It's possible that each of these loops was a little bit longer, like he would go and turn right on Lauder Avenue, drive around a little bit, come back, and maybe that's what makes up those 3 minutes of time. I have him sitting here because I picture that that's what a stalker would do, would be that he would stop for a while and then take off. He wouldn't want to stay in a position too long. So right now, it is about ready to take off again and head away from 1122 King Road. And as you see right here, it's going to go to Queen Road, take a left. The probable cause erroneously calls that King Road. After the car turns around at 500 Queen Road, number 52, they refer to it as King Road when it heads west, but it's not. And then right here, there is Sigma Chi, and car turns left here. And this is Willanta Drive right now. It switches over right at that sign you just saw there to Willanta Drive from Taylor Avenue to Willanta. Now it's heading up, and it's going to stay on Willanta Drive, and basically it just stays on Willanta Drive here until it gets to Lauder Avenue. And this is a difficult place to navigate at night, or if you've never been there before, because there's a lot of places to turn. But if you go pull out a map, you'll notice that if you make the wrong turn, you get stuck in various areas. There's no out other than going back out the way you came. And it's still heading down on Willanta Drive. Right here, you took a left, but it's still Willanta Drive. If you went right, you'd be on Sunnyside Avenue, and that takes you to Conestoga, which he'll do later. Now, during that 17-minute gap between pass number 2 and 3, I do speed up the clock because we don't know what he was doing during part of that time. So right now he's on Willanta Drive, and the next time it stops, it'll be Lauder Avenue. And if you get out a map and you want to follow along, feel free to do so. Okay, and taking a left on Lauder Avenue, and then at the top of this little ramp here, he'll be taking a left on Taylor Avenue. And that time of night there likely wasn't any other vehicles in front of him or behind him or anything, so he just had free driving. But he wouldn't want to drive too fast because there could be a police car sitting and waiting somewhere, so he would just be driving pretty normal speeds. And then right now it's 3:38 in 18 seconds, passing Linda Lane again. Banfield's on the right there. You can see the Sigma Chi sign up on the right. And this is probably about what it looked like that night. This is my trip out there in December. And then a left on King Road. And then a left on Queen Road. Passing 1112 King Road. Now 1122 King Road. Here is 500 Queen Road right here. And then 500 Queen Road number 52 is the building up on the left there. And here it goes, coming around right at the right time, 3:39, 13 seconds. And now it's going back around there again. This one guy said, "Hey, it's a Chrysler 300 driving around back there. Look, it's even in the video when I was on the show with on Court TV with Vinny. There's a Chrysler 300, he says, is parked back there. So you're saying that the killer is still living right there and he lets his car still being parked out there the whole time?" So if you see right here, notice how I don't have him wait at all, because this time he might have looked up there and was frustrated, thinking, "Oh God, the lights are still off." So after he came around, he sees that the lights are still on, So he notices that they're still on, so he's like, okay, I'm going to get the hell out of here. And this time he does the same thing. Walenta Drive. And you can see that sign right by that white trailer there. Boom. It switches right over to Walenta Drive right there. And a lot of times I say Walenta Drive because the Elantra, I keep messing those up because they sound similar. But yeah, it's Walenta Drive. And then driving up here and turning left, staying on Walenta Drive. It's interesting too, because if you've taken a right there, that's also Walenta Drive. It's just got that weird jog in the road for no real apparent reason. So he's on Walenta Drive. And you can see, if you didn't know the area, it might take a right there. And we're still on Walenta Drive, and hopefully, I think I stay daylight, but I think I do switch when I'm about to turn right at when you finally go down Walenta Drive and get to a stop sign. And that should be around this corner here. Okay, on this loop, it looks like I stayed in daylight. So here's the stop sign. And then turn left, staying on Walenta Drive. And then Lauder Avenue is coming up. But on this longer route, I have him turning right on Lauder Avenue. So this is the one where it's 17 minutes. And it's interesting, right? Because if he goes this direction, his same normal loop, but instead of turning left, he turns right here this time, because he's trying to kill more time. I picture Kohberger as somebody who really can't control himself. In some ways, he's just like, so he does things to mitigate his own self. So he drives far away so that he knows that it'll take a certain amount of time to come back so he can kill time. If he was still sitting there, he probably knows that he can't control himself, so he would just quickly enter the house even if the lights were on. So this time he's driving further away, hoping that when he gets back, the lights will be off. So he was just on Lauder Avenue, past the E&W, and we are at Highway 95, just going through that intersection right there. And it's interesting because now he's on Steiner Avenue, just like when you exited Indian Hills Drive just before you turns into Rose Street and then goes to Steiner. But now you're going to pass Rose Street and stay on Steiner. And then if you stay on Steiner, it gets right to Highway 8. And if you look at the clock right there, it's 3:43 and 40 seconds, just driving a regular pace. Now he's doing this at night here. And should be taking a left here, not turning, just turning left. Kind of a hard turn here. There it is. And then it'll be Highway 8 coming up. And 3:44 and 19 seconds. So look how close this is to the 3:45 that the still frame from the surveillance footage at the Mobil gas station was taken. You know, it's not exactly, it's 3:44 and 34 seconds. Right here is where that surveillance image was taken. It's also possible it was taken on the other side. There's just not enough information in the image to say what side it was taken on, but there's a street on the other side that it's also possible that that photo was taken. So it's really close to the 3:45 time. Now, whether that's an Elantra or not, I don't know. But I'm just having him come out this way. We're killing time. It's a thought that I had. And, well, I guess we'll find out at trial if that is an Elantra or not. We're going to go through that intersection, and then I think I turned left on... Yeah, I just turned left there, and we're heading towards White Avenue again. And turning left on it. And White Avenue comes in behind the Mobil gas station. And when it gets to that area, I just pause the car and clock away some minutes to kill the time that we have no idea where the Elantra went. Law enforcement might very well know exactly where it went at all times. I'm just using what we know and what is available out there. So I'm just stopping it here at 3:46 and 31 seconds. And pretty soon here, it's just going to start ticking away really fast. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that is an Elantra? It's at an angle, and I can see the similar shape of the window, and it's blurry because it's moving fast, so it's hard to say exactly with certainty what that is, but I think it's consistent with an Elantra, for sure. But I'm not a car expert, and if it's not an Elantra, it doesn't matter to me at all. So right here, I pick it back up at 3:53 in the morning, and he'll be going back on Steiner Avenue after going through this stoplight here. Because remember, the Mobil gas station is on the left, and just a minute ago we came in from across the street over there. So currently on Steiner, just went forward, took a hard right, and then just going straight. Should veer to the left here in a little bit. Staying on Steiner, and then we'll eventually get to Highway 95. So veer to the left, and then we'll straighten out, go into the right. And then this is just a long straightaway here, and that'll take you to Steiner and Highway 95, which is exactly where the vehicle was after coming out of the Indian Hills Drive sighting on a surveillance camera. So that was Rose Street, and that was almost right when it straightened out back there. And here we go. We're at the intersection where A and W is straight through there. Likely would have passed that area at around 3:55. But again, this is a stop sign, basically. So you're just waiting for traffic. He's not going to really have to wait for traffic at any of these places at that time of night. How do you know, Gray? Could have been a whole bunch of people there. Yeah, I guess that's true. You know. It could have been a convention of Willanta owners driving around at 3:55 in the morning. It's definitely a possibility. So here we come. We are on Steiner Avenue, and we were on Lauder Avenue after going through 95, and then we'll be on Taylor Avenue right now. And this will be pass number 3's conclusion. So now it's, quote, entering the area at 3:55, right? I think right in this area, it's hard to tell at night, but I think right around here is Linda Lane, and then here is Band Field right there, and you can see Sigma Chi again up there on the right, and then the vehicle is going to turn left onto King Road. And then once it gets on King Road, takes a left on Queen Road. And again, you'll see right there is 1112 King Road with a camera that was right on that balcony there. And now we're passing 1122 King Road right now. It's just off to the right. Just slowing down a little bit here. And then taking off. And likely on this pass, Kohberger noticed the lights were off. So look at this, 3:56 and 59 seconds, coming around. And then it goes back around behind again. And see up here, coming up again, is the parking spot where 1122 King Road is. And right here, right on the left there is 1122 King Road, and the car parked right around 3:57 and 40 seconds. And again, it sits here for about 3 minutes, waiting and watching. So maybe there was a certain point he's still watching, the lights on, but maybe halfway through this 3-minute time frame, the lights turned off, and then he wanted to give it more time where they were possibly even asleep. So then he takes off again to do his final pass. And it could be when he takes off, if it's right around 4 o'clock, that's when the DoorDash driver was there, and he saw him as he was leaving. But he also knew that Madison Mogen's bedroom light was off. So he came back and he was sort of scouting out, and he saw that maybe Xana Kernodle's light was on. Maybe it wasn't on when he drove in here, but when he came back after his when he's coming back on the fourth pass, he sees her light on, and then he went back to check on it, and he still made up his mind. He goes, okay, like I've said before, it's go time. Vinny used the same phraseology, and he goes into the house. But currently we are in the midst of waiting 2 or 3 minutes here. And I just paused the video. I didn't sit there that long, and in real life I'm just pausing the video right here, and after the 3 minutes up we just start moving again. When I say the video, I mean when I was there and I shot it, I literally just pause it here for 3 minutes because I think that's what he was doing. Now it's also possible the 3 minutes were filled with him driving further away and coming back. I have to concede that that is possible. I just picture him stalking, waiting and watching, and then continuing to drive, because he did drive in there 3 times, so you would think, or at least 4 times actually, so you would think that on each of those times that he was in there, that he was watching the house to see what was going on. So right now it's 4 o'clock and 14 seconds. So interestingly, this is about when the DoorDash driver was there, right? So he may have seen the lights of that vehicle show up, and it'd be interesting to go back and look at the surveillance footage if there was any kind of lights on the trees in the background at around 4 o'clock. I don't think there are. I haven't seen those. And it just could just mean that he turned, and because of the way it slopes up, the headlights never hit there. But anyways, he leaves it around 4 o'clock and 40 seconds from behind 1122 King Road, and we see him making, this will be the final pass, but again leaving on Willanta Drive. And it's going to do the same thing. But just watch this though. And even on this route right here, you can look over to the left and see the 1122 King Road residence if lights are on. So again, drives up here, takes a left, and stays on Willanta Drive. Or as I like to say, Willanta Drive. I know that really bugs some people. It's such a key element to the case. If you say Willanta, well, he must be innocent. But if you say Willanta, well, you're not really sure. And momentarily, we'll be back down at that stop sign on Willanta Drive. It's got to go straight here, and then it kind of veers off to the right. So you've seen this in the daylight, and you've also seen it at night. At nighttime, the first time I was there, I had to stop multiple times, and I think that's where the 12 trips that Bryan Kohberger took out there on other nights, he really got familiar with it, because by the time I was done, especially in the trip in December, when I went back out there, I still had it memorized from the trip that I took in September, and I could just go there and drive around without making any mistakes right off the bat. So we're still on Willanta Drive here. Just going to get down to Lauder Avenue again. I think I was texting or something. So this is definitely slower, a little bit slower than he probably would have been driving in that one section right here. And right now we are at Lauder Avenue, and we're going to take a left here. And this takes you again to Taylor Avenue. Taylor Avenue is the main street just off of King Road. Or I guess more technically, King Road is just off of Taylor Avenue, right near the end where it becomes Walenta Drive. So now it's 4:04 and 14 seconds. And remember, probable cause says the vehicle enters the area for a fourth time at around 4:04. And I believe that's a camera similar to the Linda Lane camera that films Taylor Avenue. That could be another one that's right on the street, though, making it more obvious. But that camera does show. So right now it's about, it's 4:04 and 45 seconds. And that's right there, I believe, is Linda Lane. And here we go again with Banfield on the right. You see Sigma Chi up there. And then we'll be turning left onto King Road, the next street, right here. And then taking a left on Queen Road. And here we go. And I actually drove the same route as the Elantra, parked, stopped there, and turned around. Just backing up. And look at the clock here. Now it's pulling away and goes around the corner to the left, and then boom, picks that up again, driving out. This might have been the trip in September. And then right in this area tried to park or turn around right in front of 1122 King Road. There's a security vehicle there, but maybe, like I said before, he noticed the light was on in Xana's room, so he was right there and he wanted to get a look at it again. And then over here at Queen and King Road, he does a 3-point turn. Okay, so right here, 3-point turn, and then back up, heading east on Queen Road. Passing 1122 King Road there. Now this is his final go time pass. And then coming around this corner here, picks up again. There it is. At 407. Driving by, and then it comes back behind here. And the vehicle drives and likely just parks right back here. I think it parked right on the side, not way back there, although that's definitely possible, but I think it was more like right in this area. Look at that view from right there. As you can see, right into Madison Mogen's room. But likely pulled up right a little bit next to that tree, because you could, with that time of night, you could see the lights on or off. But you would park here, and this gives you a really simple exit. So right now, it's 4:08, right when the car stopped. Absolutely matches the probable cause document. It's 4:08. Now, a lot of times, they'll give you a wider range than reality. So they'll say, like, 4 o'clock to 4:25. In the Delphi case, they wanted to know about a vehicle parked from 12 to noon, although they knew for certain that the vehicle parked at 1:28, so they really could have said 1:28 to 5 o'clock, but even 5 o'clock was wrong because they knew that the vehicle was gone by 4 o'clock, right? So they just give you a wider range, and so they know that 4 isn't correct. So he goes into the building, so about 4:09 he goes down the hill, enters the building, and this is the 9 minutes of hell video. And if you haven't seen it, this shows you how there is way more than enough time. This is a 3D model that I built. He goes into the house, makes his way up to Madison Mogen's bedroom, and the clock just ticks away for 3 minutes. And you just use your imagination of what was going on. So, he attacks Madison first on the bed while she's sleeping. She's killed pretty quickly, but Kaylee Goncalves, either wakes up or is right there, and she's trying to fight back. And now Kohberger is attacking her, and it's more of a battle for a little bit. And this is when the knife sheath is somehow left on the bed. Now, obviously, he didn't have the knife sheath on his belt because the knife sheath has a loop on it, and if it was on his belt and it was tightened, there's absolutely no way it would have been pulled off. Now, I guess it's possible if he was going to sexually assault her that he undid his belt, etc. However, Kohberger was very aware of DNA. I think he went there to kill, not to sexually assault anybody. So he would have, if he was going to do a sexual assault, he likely would have used some sort of contraceptive, a condom or something like that. But I don't know if he would risk that, because you can leave hair in situations like that. I think he was way, way aware of DNA, fingerprints, blood, etc., etc., and likely just went there to kill. So look at all this time that this is taking right here. This is the 9 minutes of hell video. If you haven't seen it, it's out there on YouTube. And when you see it, you realize that there really is a lot of time. I think the killings could have taken place in 5 minutes or even less than that if he was committed and moving around quickly from spot to spot. And look at this. I mean, so I think it's obvious that at this point he would have already have killed Kaylee Goncalves. But, I mean, obviously none of us were there. We don't really know the timing of anything like that. But just in your own mind, can't you see how this is absolutely plenty of time to have killed both people in that room with a large K-bar knife? And obviously now we know that Kaylee was kind of sitting up in the corner, slumped over. So I got to change that at some point. And then he comes down the stairs, and then maybe he goes after Ethan Chapin. And I don't have this set up correctly either with these two individuals in the room, because when I made 9 Minutes of Hell, I hadn't really gone through and placed people exactly where they're supposed to be. Ethan should be, I believe, on the bed, and Xana is on the ground. And I think likely they were both on the bed at one point, but I think after Kohberger realized that he left the knife sheath, he then goes back upstairs looking for it after thinking he had already killed Xana and Ethan. And when he's coming back down, he hears the whimpering sound of Xana Kernodle. So then he says, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," to keep her from screaming or anything like that. And then he attacks her again, and she ends up on the floor, and that's where the thud sound happens. And at this time, Murphy's barking, and he's going to get the hell out of that house. So right now it's just 4:13, and 42 seconds. And this is just Ethan right now, you guys. Like, he's spending 3 minutes on Ethan right here. But Ethan, I believe, was sleeping. And this isn't really the scenario that happened with Ethan. I think he was in the room and was attacked there. And maybe, I mean, it's sort of interesting when you think about it. Xana's comment maybe making when she said, "Somebody's here." Maybe when she was in the kitchen, she saw Kohberger come down the stairs and enter the living room while she's still in the kitchen. And then says, "Somebody's here," and Kohberger goes straight into the room and kills Ethan Chapin quickly. And then Xana comes back to the room to see what's going on, and he thinks he kills her as well, but she survives, barely. And then he goes looking for the knife sheath but can't find it. He doesn't know where he put it or where it was lost because it was underneath the quilt. And then he goes back down the stairs and hears her whimpering, and then he says, "It's okay, I'm going to help you," and then he kills her for the final time. He had thought he'd already done that. And now look, we're just now gonna just, oh, now it's Xana, right? But I think that theory that I just came up with kind of makes sense. Kohberger comes down the stairs. She's in the kitchen. That's why the DoorDash bag is in there. And she sees him come down the stairs because you get a straight shot from the sink to the stairs. Man, I like that. I wish I had thought of that the other day. And she can see and says, "Hey, somebody's here." And it didn't really wake up Ethan. But Dylan could hear because she's right at the bottom of the stairs. And then Kohberger, though, is heading towards Xana's room. Maybe she was a target, too. But when he gets in there, it's Ethan. So he kills him. And then Xana comes back because she doesn't know what the hell's going on. And then he attacks her in the room. Just a theory. But that one actually kind of makes some sense, doesn't it? Look how long this is taking, you guys. Do you really think it took this long for Ethan and Xana, and how long that took just in that small little room with Madison and Kaylee? I don't think so. So it's 4:16 right now and 28 seconds. I think right around 4:17 or so, I have him leaving this area, and I don't have the bodies positioned correctly at all. They're supposed to be, one would be on the bed, which would be Ethan, and it would be against the wall there, and then Xana would be on the ground. So now it's 4:17. And perhaps this is right when, you know, he comes back down after looking for the sheath and attacks her really quick again, and she lands on the ground, and there's dog barking, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, most people that have watched this 9 minutes of hell video realize that, oh yeah, there's definitely plenty of time. So there it is. So you put Ethan on the bed there, Xana's on the ground. And then right here, if you pause the video right there, you can see right there, there's Dylan Mortensen looking out the door. But it would be dark. I have a headlight on his head there. And then he makes it back. You know, I have the car just sitting here, so he isn't in the car yet. He makes his way back up. Perhaps before he even went into the house, he left a garbage bag, maybe a couple of them, and maybe some other piece of clothing underneath the vehicle right there, so he doesn't have to touch the vehicle again. So he's got gloves on that likely have blood on them, the weapon, etc. So when he gets there, he grabs the plastic bag, puts the knife in it, and then he takes his gloves off individually, puts them in the plastic bag, Then he maybe takes off his shirt, puts it in the plastic bag, and then maybe puts on another shirt. Don't really know, but then he takes that plastic bag and puts it into another plastic bag. You know, maybe he had two of them there, and then he puts that in the back seat, and maybe he had some plastic sitting on the seat, something like that. Maybe something on a steering wheel, like a plastic liner of some sort. And then he gets into the vehicle and drives away. Now, we also know that he spent a lot of time cleaning and making sure that his vehicle was clean after the murders. So as you can look, this gave him a lot of time outside that car to quickly get this stuff done, and he's just wrapping it up right now, and he's just about to get into his vehicle. Because it's 4:19, it's almost 4:20. He's got to be leaving at a high rate of speed at 4:20. And when they say 4:20, is it 4:20 in 10 seconds? 11? You know, we don't really know. We don't have that kind of detailed information. So here we go. And the vehicle is now heading out of the area. Now this next portion is the entire route back from 1122 King Road all the way back to Pullman, Washington. All right. So we're going to finish that portion right now and just continue on. It's a long journey. It's another like hour. So just watch it. But you can see this is all definitely, it makes sense. The timing makes sense. The distance between various places makes sense. And I think this is going to be pretty close to what he did. Now, it might not be exactly. There might be other places he went off of Volanta Drive. I just have him waiting at the house for 3 minutes. All right. So when we get down to Palouse River Drive and Conestoga, that's when he exits generally the area, which is pretty close to like 423 or 4 or something like that. So remember, this looks exactly the same route that he'd taken all those different loops, but instead he takes a right here. Instead of going left on Volanta Drive right there, he goes on to Sunnyside Avenue. And then not too long after Sunnyside Avenue, in fact, the very first right, makes it really easy, off of Sunnyside Avenue is Conestoga. So he takes Conestoga and drives around. You just stay on Conestoga. You do not veer off of it. And you can see in the right hand, upper right there, I have a map. And I have a red dot. Most of the time I just move it around. Sometimes it seems to animate, but I just kind of move the dot around to different areas where you might be from time to time. Alright, so it's still on Conestoga here. And I think it does a pretty big loop here in a second, kind of curving to the left. Yeah, now we're going straight down, and this should get us right to Palouse River Drive. You can see the dot on the map there. As soon as it gets to that open area down at the bottom, that's Palouse River Drive. And that is right here. Okay, so now turning left on Palouse River Drive. And we'll then be turning right on Highway 95 in just a moment. And prior to that, we'll be passing various roads. For example, Conestoga Drive. Some other small community roads that they don't really show up readily on Google Earth when I'm scanning. But in a moment here, we'll be turning right on Highway 95. And here we go, on Highway 95 now. And there's going to be pretty much a straightaway for quite a ways. And then eventually it starts veering off to the right after passing, it looks like Zeitler Road. Zeitler. It starts veering off to the right. But that's in a while. Maybe a mile or so. And as you can see, I'm just driving a normal pace here. I'm not speeding, you know, like everybody thinks Gray's speed demon, because I went 36 and a 25 when I was out there. I paid the ticket right away. Don't worry, everybody. I'm sure you're absolutely perfect. You've never sped in your life. So this is a long route back. I switch over to daylight for the trip that makes it across from Highway 95 to 195 on this crazy route. You can see it on the map up there, that lower green where it heads west to east, or east to west even, however you want to look at it. That goes through the middle of nowhere, and that's the closest route that I could find that matched what the probable cause document said on it. And the 17 minutes of missing time does not occur in that area. The drive from when you turn to head west, the timing absolutely matches perfectly from there all the way back to Pullman, Washington, when the vehicle was spotted on a camera on Johnson Avenue. So right here we're getting near the end of that straightaway, and the vehicle should start sort of veering off to the right. We may have already done that. And it's right around 5:32 when we are near Blaine, Idaho. But his phone pinged around in that area at 4:48. So he either drove a much longer way or went somewhere else before reaching there, which would have been off of this road or some other place. We don't know. Okay, you can see on the map right there, Blaine, you can make out, it's the white word just to the right of the red dot, a little bit south and east, near the edge of the screen. That's Blaine. So it's 4:28 and 45 seconds. And looks like we're almost level with Blaine in just a moment. But I think it just pinged off the tower associated with Blaine, which is right off the highway there. And it could mean that it was 2 miles past it when it pinged there. Could even mean it was before, but if it's before, then we're missing even more time. One thing for sure, there's just at least 15 minutes, 16 minutes of missing time if he drove the exact route that law enforcement has on the probable cause document. And what's interesting too is he veers off into the sort of rural area when he heads west, as you see in that the green at the bottom of the screen where it goes across. It's not too long after his phone pings. So it's almost like he turned his phone on to look at a map, because I can just tell you after being there, there's almost no way that you could remember how to get across. But if you had Google Maps on and some way to navigate, you might be able to do it. If you could turn your phone on and see a mapping program. It could be too that if he took a more sort of rural route to get down there originally, which would have killed the 17 minutes, that he merely turned his phone on when he was down there because he felt safe, that he was already down past Blaine and there was no record of him driving on Highway 95, so you could turn it on down there. Because there's other routes you can take. If you can see that dark patch up there of woods up in the upper right hand corner of the map there, you can go around that to the right, and then it actually, if you follow a series of roads, can get you right back onto Highway 95 near the lower right hand portion of the green route. And so right now we are even south of Blaine, as you can see with the red dot there. And it's coming up here where I just have to stop it and kill 16 minutes or so. And then we just start it up again at 4:48. And right now it's 4:32, so he's left the 1122 King Road address just 12 minutes ago. In fact, the amount of time we've driven right now is the same amount of time that the vehicle was parked from 408 to 420 when it left at a high rate of speed when it was parked at the 1122 King Road address. So as you can see, this is quite a bit of time. And then right here, 16 minutes of missing time sped up. Is this when Bryan Kohberger hid the bloody knife and clothing? And I'm really zipping through the time there. Those are seconds on the far right. We're at 4:37, 4:38, 4:39, 4:40 coming up, 41. And when it gets to 4:48, the vehicle will start moving again and you'll pick up right where we just left off. But 16 minutes of time that's elapsed is even 4 minutes longer than what we've already driven so far. So there's quite a bit of time that's missing. And here we are. We're at 4:48, and the clocks are synced back up again, and we're moving forward. So somehow, prior to here, and I can say that it could have also pinged a little bit further south, which I think it did when it turned on. So you can either be slightly less or more than 16 minutes, depending on where the phone actually pinged when it turned back on. But this is what he was doing, late at night, driving. I mean, this is Highway 95. Look how dark it is even here. There's zero lights, just my headlights. And when the vehicle finally takes a right, the road that it turns on is called Mogen Road. That's the right-hand turn that it takes. And it's all dirt roads all the way across. And you can see right now it's light out, so you get to see the rest of the drive all the way back to Pullman, Washington in the light. And there's various times when I was driving down that I wasn't sure if I was at the right turn or not, and so I kept on driving when I saw. And that one I actually pulled in, but then I realized it wasn't right, so I came back out. So you were picking up right as I turned back out on the highway again. And we're getting close. We're getting close. It's at the end of this straightaway here. Not this one, though. Just as we go around this curve, and then it goes straight at the end of... Well, not the end of the straightaway, but in the middle of the straightaway, we take a right. So this might be another spot where I look at it and go, nope, and then kept going. And here's that straightaway that I was just talking about. we're getting there. Is it right here? Yeah. And there we go. And look at this. And you can't see a reason why he might have taken this route. And this is where law enforcement says he went. Now they must be pretty certain that he took this route across because, you know, he could have gone south right on 95 and then just kind of cut across. I think 95 and 195 meet up south, and he could have just driven that way. But they don't think he did that. And there's also, like, when you're heading down 95, you could take Thorn Creek Road, and then that ends up running into, if you just stay on that road, you can run into Uniontown and then head up north, go through Colton, etc. But they think he went across and cut across, and I mean, look at this route. It's nuts. Just a dirt road. And I paused there for a minute because I was just making sure where I was. And I cut out the part where the car was stopped just to kind of keep some continuity. It's actually very pretty out there. I mean, look at that. So we're at 4:55. Now if you remember, they get back in town. When I say they, I mean Bryan Kohberger in his vehicle. Oh, do you hear Gray? He said they. There must be multiple people. Oh my God, it's multiple people. And you can also use they referring to one person. And no, it's not some new term. There is a singular they. Like if somebody said, hey, what time did Joe go to the basketball game? You might say, well, they went at about 3 o'clock. Gray, that's not true. My English teacher said... Okay. The whiny, snivelly trolls. What I always find interesting about the trolls is when I make a video that's purely based on the factual information in the case, they scrutinize every single detail over and over and over again. But when the crazy nutjob conspiracy wackos talking about Chrysler 300s, the police driving around, a university cover-up conspiracy, they don't question at all. They don't even ask one question. It's just, wow, I knew there was something. And they go on believing these clowns over and over and over again. And when the dust settles in this case, you're going to see that these people lied to you for months and months and months. And here we are, way out in the middle of nowhere. There's not really many roads out here either to give anybody sort of a directions to follow, but you can see on the screen there, you could probably find that same route on a map, since that does follow the road exactly. I used Google Maps and then moved it into the positions that match the probable cause. I know, that pesky probable cause. Don't you know that's all made up, Gray? None of it's real, you get it, right? You know, it's weird when I look at the map, it feels like I'm so much farther out than I have in the green, or the, you know, on the green, but my red dot that's following it. It'd be nice to have something like a compass on the screen that could turn and rotate and show you exactly what direction you're headed. But it seems like such a long straightaway here. But I think this is right. And then right now it takes a left. And then it shouldn't be too long, and then it takes a hard right. I mean, almost like a over 90 degrees. Maybe I think this is the spot right here, where it goes straight and then takes a hard right. I'm just looking at the map there. I haven't seen the spot that does this yet. Doesn't seem like I've updated the red dot for quite a while. I'll have to see where that goes. I know that I used those houses there as landmarks on the map. Yeah, so I remember this one where I turned right and I needed to go left. So what I did was I turned around, came back, and now I'm picking up right as I pass that same street again, or road. Now this does have some pavement on it, and you can see on the map exactly where we're at. We are on Thorn Creek. Now there's another spot where I drove by. I was supposed to turn right here, right there on that dirt road. So then I came back and I drove on it and picked it up right as if I had turned there, okay? So I am on that same dirt road. And the red dot is exactly correct. Yeah, it looks like we're almost halfway across to getting to 195 near Colton. And you can see it's 5:01 right now. Yeah, make sure to comment in the comment section on what you think about this entire video, and does it help you visualize what Bryan Kohberger was doing in his Wide Elantra that night? Because for me, it just puts everything together. The timing works. What's amazing is as soon as you take the right on Borgden there, and you drive across, the timing from there all the way back to Johnson Avenue, where a vehicle was seen on camera and then pinged after that. And so here's another spot where I turned to the right, didn't mean to, and I meant to go straight, and I just picked it up where I left off. And this is because this is the first time I drove on there, right? So this might be another spot, if you had a map and a GPS coordinates that are going that you can actually watch, perhaps it would have worked. but I didn't, so I got lost 3 times, but I got back on the right track. And I removed the portions where I drove out of the way so that the timing was still consistent. You know, I've been making videos on this case since I think it was 2 days after the murders, and I remember starting off with the, just covering the case, and I think like the next day is when the grub truck videos came out, and everybody was wondering about the guy that showed up on the scene with Madison and Kaylee. It did look sort of suspicious the way he was standing back there with his hood on, and it was just odd. But it did seem like he came in with them. And then once the video of them walking down the street, the famous Adam video, "What did you say to Adam? I told him everything." That video, and you see him walking with them, that completely cleared him in my mind. I didn't even think about it. And then Kaylee's boyfriend was somebody that, he was interesting at first because the police weren't clearing him, and Kaylee's family said something, "I'm not sure why they're looking into him, he didn't have anything to do with it." So it was kind of like he was interesting, and I theorized without using his name early on, but as soon as they cleared him, you just move on to something else. And he had absolutely nothing to do with anything. And neither did the other Jack, that is the guy, I believe, that was walking with Madison and Kaylee from the corner club. And then I remember, another thing that was interesting was the phone calls that Kaylee had made to her boyfriend, and then how Madison got the phone and called. And this is kind of funny, I think, right here. A dog comes running out. That dog chased me down the road for like I don't know, a quarter mile or so. It's funny. But those phone calls were interesting because it was like a series of calls from Kaylee. Then Madison called a couple times, and then Kaylee one more time, and he never picked up the phone. And so it seemed like there might have been something really bad going on. But it turns out, she was just drunk and wanted him to come over, or had a few beers or whatever, and his friend told him not to answer. Apparently, this is what I was told, because he should play hard to get. Don't always come running when she asks, something like that. And that actually might have saved his life. And we're almost to 195 here in a minute. And then as soon as we get to 195, we head through Colton. And so, all the jacks were cleared. Everybody was cleared. And that really should have clued in to people that it was some random unknown person. And it was. And it was interesting, on my show, I brought on an amazing forensic genetic genealogist named Misty Gillis, and I asked her, just out of curiosity, because I was thinking, man, they've got to have some DNA, and I asked her what would be the fastest way to do forensic genetic genealogy. How long would it take if there were no barriers? You didn't have to wait, put into a queue or anything. And she said maybe a couple days. And I was thinking, man, okay, that's what they should be doing in this case. And then it turned out they said, oh yeah, forensic genetic genealogy was used. And then it sort of seemed like they backtracked off of that and switched it over to that they just, he was a suspect. They dug through his parents' garbage can and found a parent. But it turns out that the reason they were at that house and the reason Kohberger became the main suspect was because on the snap of the knife sheath that was found on Madison Mogen's bed, we're turning right on 195 right now, there was DNA from one single contributor, and it turns out it led to a person named Bryan Kohberger. So they put their eyes on him. They were watching him. Turns out he drove a white Elantra, same vehicle they were looking for. And they followed him and tracked him down in Pennsylvania. And they took trash out of his parents' garbage cans and were only able to find genetic material from everybody else other than Kohberger, but they, basically they used the father's DNA, and that was enough to get a warrant to be able to swab and arrest Bryan Kohberger, and Bryan Kohberger's DNA matched the original DNA detected, the touch DNA on the button of the knife sheath by something, I think it was 5.1 octillion to 1, something like that. I mean, it was a ridiculous number. That means you would have to have, I think I figured out it was some crazy number, some number of centillion planet Earths with 8 billion people on each one of those with the same DNA structure to be able to find possibly one match. And after that, it just started the whole thing. They got all the search warrants, getting all the information, social media, etc. Now, if they were doing the probable cause document now, I think you would see it be just so much more information, a massive amount of information in there. But they gave probable cause just means that you're supposed to give the judge a probable, or it's more probable than not, that this person is the suspect or the person who committed the crime. And that means it's 51% to 49%. The probable cause in this case was overwhelming, in my opinion. However, think how overwhelming it would be later. For example, if the probable cause had mentioned that when they went to his house, the problem is the probable cause comes out before you would be going in to arrest him. That's what it's for. But if somehow you could have mentioned and saw into the future that surveillance could see Bryan Kohberger in his house, separating the trash, taking his own garbage out of the trash, putting it into separate Ziploc bags, and putting it into garbage cans of the neighbor's house, and he was wearing gloves while he was doing it. Now, I made a video the other day that doesn't really have a lot of views. That was the question. Could any of the pro-burgers out there, the ones that think he's innocent, can you give me a non-nefarious reason that he was sitting in his kitchen sorting through his trash, wearing latex gloves, and putting his own trash into other Ziploc baggies and putting the garbage into the neighbor's garbage can? Can you tell me a non-nefarious reason? Anybody. And if you can, put it in the comments section right now. And I hope everybody's watching this video and can see all the movements of that night. And I'd like you to comment in the comment section of all the thoughts that you're having watching this video and the routes that he took all night long. This is the entire night. I sped up the 17 minutes of missing time twice, one on the journey home back to Pullman, and then also during that 17-minute loop, we don't know where the vehicle was for a portion of that time. And I merely put the car by the mobile gas station because there is a sighting of a vehicle that could be a white Elantra, or it may not be. There are people out there that claim they know for certain that it isn't one, but I don't believe those people because of the just the tremendous amount of misinformation those same people put out on all the other elements of the case. This case, to me, is relatively simple. You have a guy, likely an incel type individual, who was always awkward. You know, I know there's a lot of people out there right now that just think he's so hot. Look at the smile on his face. He's awesome. He's the greatest, man. But he, you know, he's the one that said, "You have nice birthing hips." He's the one that is on a list in a bar because he was really weird and treated people strangely, and they wanted to, you know, have people keep an eye on him. So I think he is sort of an incel type. And I believe that he moved from Pennsylvania to Washington to emulate Bundy. I made a video on this at the beginning of the case. And then he attacked a sorority, an off-campus sorority party house. And it could be that he went there to kill all the girls in there, starting with Madison Mogen. And it, you know, but it's also possible he went there just to target Madison Mogen. I think that is the person, the main person of his anger and sort of desires to do what he did. She sort of represents the thing that he could never have, and he wanted to take it out. That's what I feel like with Bryan Kohberger. And I think he thought about it. He thought about it, what he was going to do. Why do those people get to have fun? It's really similar to Elliot Rodger. Almost exactly the same, in my opinion. And he, you know, he sits there and he thinks about it all the time. And he even went out there 12 other times thinking about it, plotting, planning. I bet you there are maps that he has where he has the looping Conestoga, you know, the Walenta Drive to Conestoga, etc., all the different things that he was doing. I bet he has maps that they've collected, that he has all the routes mapped out. And I think he went there multiple times, because I went there once and got lost multiple times the first time, and at the end of my first time, I knew exactly where I was going. The second time I went out there, I didn't get lost at all driving around. I knew exactly where I was the whole time. So you could sort of use that as a comparison to Bryan Kohberger. You know, when he would go out there on his other trips, he knew exactly what he was doing. And I bet there was other nights where he drove around and did the same passes, and he just kept watching, looking through the window, planning, plotting, and then one day it was all ready to go. And he timed it to match up to when he was going to be changing his license plate on his vehicle. So he was going to commit the murders with his Pennsylvania plates on, and it's just one plate because he didn't have a front license plate. And as you remember, the white Elantra driving by the A&W at 3:28, which is exactly the amount of time that it would take to get from 700 Indian Hills Drive to get there. It's also the exact amount of time from A&W to get on the 1330 Linda Lane camera behind 500 Queen Road. It's the exact time to get behind there. So you have the Elantra driving around, and so he timed it up perfectly to be using his white Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. Then shortly after the murders, he changes the plates to front and back Washington license plates. And not long after that, he must have known, by the way, that his car was picked up on surveillance cameras, and he thought just changing the plates, his car is sort of a basic type of car, white Elantra. If he just changes the plates, I mean, it's a dime a dozen, right? Except it's kind of dumb, because if they had picked up his license plate when it was a Pennsylvania plate, they'd still be able to run that and come up with Bryan Kohberger. So it's, you know, I guarantee you he timed it for that particular reason. Then, for some unknown reason, he has his father come to Pullman, and they drive back together to Pennsylvania. And there's just some interesting things, you know, when he's driving back and he gets pulled over twice. His dad's the one that introduced the, oh wow, did you see there was a shooting on our campus and everything. And it's like, well, how come you didn't bring up the bigger situation, the 4 college students that were killed just up the road, which everybody knows about, in Moscow, Idaho? You didn't bring that up. But each time his dad brought him up, each time they were pulled over in Indiana, I think it was within a 10-minute period of time, it's crazy how they, you know, Bryan would look at his dad like, oh, why'd you say that? Why'd you say that? All right, so right now, the vehicle just turned right, and it's on Kuykendall Road. And this is interesting because this road here isn't a road he needed to take to get back home. It's almost like he wanted to avoid driving through a certain part of the of Pullman, Washington. So he takes this right here and then goes to Busby and then heads north, and you'll see all of that here. So he just drives on this road until it gets to a stop sign and then turns left. You see it up there how it turns to the right. He could have just kept going up north and into Pullman, but for some reason took this one. I think some of the stuff is just taking routes like that to throw people off. Yeah, so interestingly too, when Kohberger and his dad were driving back, they went through Utah and Colorado, 2 places where Bundy has murder victims. Now, was that chosen to sort of reminisce in his own mind on part of the route back? And then eventually they get pulled over twice in Indiana, and that likely increased Bryan Kohberger's paranoia quotient quite a bit at that point. He's like, his mind's probably going, whoa, man, what's going on here? And maybe that's what led to him separating the trash. And then one of the times, I think it was the second time they were pulled over, he said, oh yeah, we're just going up to get Thai food up here. I mean, that's such a strange thing to say, you know, when you're heading away, you know, you're heading all across country. Wouldn't you just said we're heading to Pennsylvania? You know, not heading to go get Thai food, almost like, you know, it seems like you're avoiding saying Pennsylvania in Kohberger's mind because that's where they're from, and you don't want anything said in these while driving around that associate with any place that you're from. That's why he kept looking at his dad every time he would say, oh yeah, he's a doctorate student at in Pullman, and you could see that like Kohberger's like, yeah, hey, did you guys see that shooting though? Boy, that was crazy. Trying to distract the officer. Similarly, when he got pulled over by the female officer on one of those body camera videos, where he just kind of kept trying to divert the conversation and act like he was just trying to be so helpful and just, yeah, no, I was just really wondering about this, and just kind of continually distracting the officer. It's probably a good technique to possibly try to get out of a ticket. All right, so it's turning left right now on Johnson Avenue. There we go. Now look what time it is. 5:23. Now I think it might actually be 5:25, not 5:35 that I said earlier. Sorry about that. His phone pinged at 5:30 in Pullman. I think earlier I said 5:35, but it's 5:25 on Johnson Avenue. And as you can see, right now we're at 5:23, and 26 seconds, and I'm driving absolutely normal speed this whole way. But again, look at this route here. It's a little bit more rural, right? Even on the area right here, you're near Pullman, but he's still out in the middle of absolute nowhere. Yeah, so I think when he and his dad got back to Pennsylvania, Kohberger started cleaning the hell out of his vehicle. Apparently, he was cleaning it over and over and over again. And I think that just means that he did it, you guys. I mean, he's cleaning his vehicle. It's not just that. It's the separating the trash. I think the 2 times he was pulled over, even though they say that wasn't intentional, if it was intentional, or even if it wasn't, it served such a great purpose because it made him paranoid that they were onto him for the vicious crime that he committed. If he didn't commit a crime and he was pulled over twice, it would just been an interesting story. Oh, wow, I was pulled over twice. It wouldn't make you paranoid because you didn't do anything. But instead, he's sitting in his kitchen, separating his trash from the rest of the family. And I think in some ways it shows you what an idiot Kohberger is, because he isn't as smart as everybody tries to portray him, especially the pro-burgers. I mean, he's a genius. You know, he's playing, you know, third-degree Mayan chess. He's so much smarter. So I veer off a little bit to show you that there's a camera on the left side of that building there. You can just see it's the dot below the window on the left. And then there's another one right on the right-hand side of this. This is where his vehicle was picked up. But Kohberger should have known that separating his trash out of his parents' trash doesn't help him, because it's still going to lead to a parent of his, and it would still lead to him. So it was a complete waste of time. But man, he was so smart, man. I think he did do a lot of extra planning, though, to make sure to mitigate the DNA left in the vehicle. I'll give him that. He did plan that out well, as far as we know. It could be that the forensic teams and the FBI found a treasure trove of information, DNA from the victims, etc., inside his vehicle, but the defense team is sure as hell isn't going to mention that. Okay, so here we go. We're right here, and I'm just going to stop the video right now because the vehicle turns and heads down. I'm just going to stop the video right here because at this point the vehicle just takes a right and heads down into heads towards Moscow, Idaho. That's what I did. Okay, he would have taken a left right here and then drove back up to his house. But as you can see right now, it's 5:26 and 51 seconds, and apparently right around 5:30 his phone pings in Pullman. So maybe he turned his phone off when he got back onto Highway 195 down there, because he needed it on to navigate through those crazy rural roads. And once he got on 195, he doesn't need it anymore. And he just knows that he needs to turn on Kuykendall and then left at the stop sign, which puts you on to Johnson Avenue, and then you come out right here. All right? So I hope this long video here gives you a great idea of what Bryan Kohberger was doing that night in his white Elantra, the path that he was taking. There could be some variations on part of it, but the rest of it I think is extremely accurate and portrays an accurate picture of what happened that night. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this long video, and If you could hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, and share the video, I would really appreciate it. Alright? So thank you all very much for watching, and as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.